Yeah. Let me drop exclusive game from my exclusive mind. You be out here chasing fame, I stay steady on my grind. Zero diamonds, zero.
Thank you for tapping into the Exclusive Minds podcast. Today we're going to be having an exclusive conversation with exclusive content from Exclusive Minds. I'm your host, Rook, and
Joe.
Let's get right into it.
Alrighty, back for episode 12.
Yo.
So I know this will be a shorter one. I think we said that last time and it ended up being almost an hour anyway, but this one should be shorter because Dave's got some brotherly love to commit to, which is not a bad thing.
For sure, absolutely. But, yeah, really digging the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. It's not like that.
Yeah, enough of that. We like doing it.
Yeah,
12 in, we're good.
No, so I just want to start this off by saying I want to give Joe a shout out for being extremely forward thinking, right? Because this came up in conversation the other day with, like, I don't know, you're like a technology guy. We talked about this before. But we were talking amongst my friends and we were having a debate, and I briefly texted you about it. It was the technology thing, like with the chips in the head, like the NeuralLink stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, would you get the NeuralLink, or is that like something that's too out of your band?
So, I mean, I think we talked about it, right? Baby steps. If you said today, would I put something in my head that did something? No. Let's take some baby steps. We haven't even gotten AR and VR glasses yet, let alone sticking stuff in people's heads. So, yeah, no, I don't. Nobody's there, I think.
I honestly, if there's a year tested on it and it's like so far so good, I know that sounds bad for like the long term, but short term, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But correct me if I'm wrong, the NeuralLink, which is a chip that you put in your head, is more for like predicting like blood sugar levels and stuff like that. It's not like as like advanced as like we're wanting to like make it seem. I think it's just like for basic things right now.
Yeah.
Like
But I mean, most of that's going to be replicated on an Apple Watch and stuff like that, which I guess in theory, if you had concerns, right, you could just remove. Or,
and they have like that thing that you could put on you too. It's like some sort of like
glucose monitor and stuff like that for people who are like diabetic and stuff. Yeah, but I mean, it's coming. I mean, I think there's going to be a point where I don't know if it's going to be embedded in the human body, but I think a lot of those things like rings and watches and even your headphones, I'm hearing, or have the ability to like pick up stuff.
Rings, that's an interesting one.
But I mean, I think that's the next step, right? It's let's take baby steps, right? I mean, jumping right into implants is a whole different story. I mean, I'm sure eventually we'll get there. I mean, all these movies are becoming reality quicker than we know what to do with.
Yeah, no, for sure. But no, it was funny that we kind of like had that conversation, and I immediately texted you and I was like, dude, like all my friends are down to get this. Like they're looking forward to this. They think that we're going to be able to, well, I guess Elon Musk said it himself. He was like, yeah, we're going to be able to communicate with the NeuralLink. Like we'll just be able to
telepathic, but it's actually like wireless. Yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
Like obsolete. So it's like that's a thing of the past.
Yeah, but, I get that. That's kind of interesting.
And then the second thing I wanted to bring up.
But at the same time, does that mean that people could like
invasive?
Yeah. So that's like, how do you? There's so many.
You have to download a VPN, like NordVPN.
I mean, think about all the questions and all it's just
you like take a dive in the pool, like you get like shocked or something. Like that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, even like you said, I think it's really cool that you could actually just kind of telepathically communicate. Yeah. Even though it's just kind of like wirelessly sending a text. But I mean, so if I'm thinking like, yeah, man, this Dave guy sucks. Right? I didn't want to actually tell you that, right? I mean, where's the line for that?
So then the second thing is when we watched that podcast, we watched I sent Joe a podcast of GaryVee, and for those who don't know, GaryVee is just kind of like a forward-thinking guy. He's one of the guys that are like kind of like the forerunners of the whole NFT space. But he was talking about briefly.
Yeah, who was that? So Full Send. I'm looking at my notes here.
Okay.
Full Send podcast, because this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. But so who's on that podcast? There's some dude that was sitting there. I thought at first it was one of the Pauls, but I don't think so, right?
So it's on that one particular, the one that I sent you. It's this guy Kyle who started the brand Full Send Nelk. It's like a brand. He started with another guy, or maybe two other guys or something, but he's on it. He's like one of the founders of it. Then I think there was a guy. I'm trying to think who's on it. The owner, like the actual CEO of the brand, he was on it. He was the guy. Okay. Yep, that he's like behind the scenes. That was his first time on it. And I don't know who the third one was besides GaryVee. Might have been Salim. But anyway, long story short, we'll get back into that in a second. It's so true. He brought up, like, I don't know if this applied to you, but, like, I remember, like, asking my mom to get her credit card and put it on the computer so I could download something on the PlayStation. And she thought that we were going to get hacked.
Right.
Like, the Sony was going to hack it. And I was like, I always want to be the forward-thinking person that's, like, kind of like yourself. Like, you always want to be, you don't want to be, like, the guy that's thinking, oh, Amazon's trying to hack my credit card, you know, and never order anything off of Amazon. But, like, it's very much a real thing. Like, I remember for a long time, like, until I got my own card, I could put my own stuff in there, but my mom thought that, like, Sony was going to hack us.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, at the time it was a different way of doing things, right? Nobody bought over the web, right, or over the wire.
Web 2.0.
So yeah, so I mean, it's just it's an uncomfort thing, and I think that was one of the things that this GaryVee guy was talking about is, you know, it's a different way of doing things, right? So it's baby steps, and I think he was throwing out all of the terms, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to catch up, right? Gas fees, I kind of figured out what that one was. The flex, which I guess is all these digital assets like these avatars, and hey, I get to show that I'm a member of the Yacht Ape dudes, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then he also talked about, people are starting to look at the digital world because there's so much, you know, people spend so much time on it, right? We talked about Noah and how he spends hours in Roblox, right? And everybody's buying basically vanity types of things in the web and the web sphere, or whatever you want to call it, the metaverse. And that's kind of where this whole thing's going, right? So we're just kind of seeing a transition from the physical to the digital, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of what I wanted to talk about, because
right, yeah,
I thought the podcast was really interesting because, I mean, you know, he talked about all these, you know, like I've been telling you, I don't get all these avatars trading for, you know, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I still don't really kind of get it, but he put it in a little bit more context because I guess he's done it as well. But
he's like one of the forerunners of it.
Yeah, and you know, I guess he's looking at it as kind of like the key to a club or a membership, right? So there's tangible, real world benefits to having the NFT, right? I think he talked about he wants to come out with this restaurant thing where, you know, only whatever it might be, 1,000 people have this NFT, and they're the only ones who can go to this restaurant, right? So it's kind of like a country club sort of thing, but there's obviously something behind that, right? If I spend $100,000, I get basically a country club membership, and this is just my entry, right? But then he was also talking about, you know, you start to see things like, if you look at the real world, right? People buy Hermes scarves and wallets and Louis Vuitton purses and spend tens of thousands of dollars on this stuff, and do they really need it, right? Do you really need a Louis Vuitton bag, right? Where you could get I don't know, you could get something off the Macy's shelf for a tenth of the price, right? And so he kind of equated it to that too. Like what we're seeing is a little bit of that, right? It's people, buying from a vanity perspective.
Yeah.
These tangible or these digital assets. And
I mean, like it's a way of, I guess, like online or digital currency. He used the example of like the main reason that people find it so interesting is the same reason that people find the blue check mark on Twitter or the Instagram check mark so valuable. There's nothing behind it. What's behind the check mark? Just they went through, gave you a check mark because they might like the content you're posting, or you
and I use the word vanity, and maybe that's a little harsh, but that's kind of the reality, right? I mean, what do you need that check mark? It's to self-validate, right? You need some sort of validation in the digital world. Like, hey, look at me, I'm cool, right? Or his term was flex. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's the same thing that people, they'll go to those studios to take pictures of like acting like they're on like a private jet or something like that, like holding the champagne, but they're not actually on the private jet. It's just all for that flex.
Yeah, they don't actually own it, which is, and they said, the other thing he was talking about was that whole ether scan that you mentioned earlier, where you can basically see if people actually own what the hell they're talking about, right? So I think the big thing is a lot of these car guys got started by renting Lamborghinis, right? They didn't actually own the Lamborghini. Some of them made it, but they didn't actually own the cars. They just rented them, and they did a bunch of videos and kind of got a following. And the next thing you know, they actually could afford to buy them. But you could sit there and say, is this guy just posing? Is he just,
Yeah.
did he just rent this Lamborghini and talking about how he owns it and he's got like, years of experience with it when he really doesn't? You can validate that with the blockchain. So I was like, okay, now, I'm starting to get some of this stuff, right? I mean, it's
starting to click.
It's kind of full visibility, full disclosure, so there's some interesting things there. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was the fact that he just basically said, and we talked about this, I think, in a podcast or two before, that he thinks 98% of all of the stuff that's in the market right now is going to go to zero or near zero, right?
And you called that early on too.
Yeah, I basically said the same thing. I said, it's very much like the .com thing where there are absolutely some that are going to come out of this and they're going to be the big 800-pound gorillas, right? Amazon and, back then Amazon, who, like he said, who's buying Amazon, right? For $300 a share, right? Now it's $3,500 a share. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting because I see that happening. And the other thing he also equated to is he says a lot of these people that are doing this right now are, I don't want to call it pump and dump, but they're basically just rushing in to make a buck, right? And they're going to make money. And
they are going to make money.
That was his point. He's like, you got guys now that are making these avatars and they're going to make, it's life-changing, right? He goes, but, they can make $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is, right? It's some significant amount of money, but it's one and done. And he goes, there's no life behind that, right? You have to give people
and their credibility
something.
goes away after that, you're not going to turn that 1 million to like $1 billion, but continue with what you were saying.
Right. Because just selling an avatar is not a repeatable business. Eventually it's going to, go full circle, cannibalize itself with just so much of it, right? And I looked on OpenSea, right? And for those that don't know, OpenSea is kind of like eBay for the NFTs in the crypto world. And I started looking at it today for really kind of the first time. And I'm like, there's so much crap listed on there, and a lot of it's listed for these obscene amounts of money. Yeah. And then I realized none of the shit's actually selling.
Yeah, they're just like posting
it's posted up there. And okay, I want $1 million for this, yacht club or yachts ape club thing, but there's no sales, right? So I'm like, okay, it's still a lot of smoke and mirrors. And when the dust settles, I think a lot of these, just avatars are going to, go away. They're not going to go away. They'll be there, but they're just not going to have any of the value that they have today because it's sort of like a land rush, and people are just looking, I think, for a quick buck, a quick flip. And, I think a lot of people, younger people in your category are like, oh, I'll spend $400 for this avatar and I'm going to flip it for, 5 times that in a week. And it's not sustainable. I mean, you might get lucky, but I really think that the people that are doing it, sort of like this GaryVee guy, right, where he's talking about NFTs, but it's kind of a whole ecosystem around it. So when you buy into his NFT, there's more than just a digital picture, right?
Yeah, you get like a meeting to like a conference.
You get invited to, I guess, 3 years of his big conference, which I guess is a big deal, kind of a salesy sort of thing. But at least there's something there, right? You're getting something. Plus, he also talked about it's an opportunity for him to go back and market to people, right? We all, we're obviously in the business of selling clothes, and we have a mail list, right? And we try to, canvas that, but he kind of takes it to the next level, right? This NFT is the ability to kind of really engage with his customer base. So I don't know. It was really actually a very good podcast, and I'm glad you forwarded it to me. I know you said, just check this at the 8-minute mark. I ended up listening to the entire hour because it's something that we talk about a lot. And I thought it was just kind of interesting because, again, this guy talked very specifically about how he's doing it and kind of what he sees as some of the pitfalls. And, and I think he has, he's fully into it, but at the same time, he's also cautious about the fact that what we're seeing today is probably going to implode at some point.
Yeah,
in
I really like
a big way.
I liked his stuff too, and I think what separates him specifically from the next person is not only is he, someone that's been on this wave for a long time, and not only does he have a business, a multi-million-dollar business, but he also backs what he's saying with actual facts. Like, he's not going to tell you to go buy this and then not have it himself. You know what I mean? Like, everything, like you just said like a few minutes ago, it's all transparent. Everything's transparent.
Yep.
And he's someone that's lived through that, the .com boom and everything like that. So he kind of sees these trends where it's like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like reliving the same thing twice in a sense with the NFT type deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really respect like that guy. I mean, I even did like a school project on him like 2 years ago for like a college thing in a business class. But yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah, and I don't know too much about him either. I mean, it's funny you keep bringing these people up, and then I don't know who they are. And then, but I guess he got to start like basically selling baseball cards and kind of like collectibles and
Yes. That's a good segue. So I'm glad you said that. Logan Paul just got scammed out of $3.5 million from the Pokemon cards. He bought a fake pack.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It just came out today. I just saw it. So what happened was they had the outer. So the cards weren't revealed. It was a clear layering of packaging, and then it was a brown layer underneath. So you can't see the cards. But they sent it to a guy. And he checked it, and he was looking to see if it was tampered with in any way. So whoever sold it to him must have kept it in the box and just let it sit for a number of years to like get everything to check. He ended up going to BCE or some sort of reputable.
Yeah, one of the grading agencies, right? That's the big thing with collectibles.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, no. When it came across my desk, I graded it accordingly that it was real." And then they opened up the layer, and it on the top of the Pokemon card, it was bubbled. So I guess that's like one of the key signs that it's a fake deck of cards, and ended up getting scammed out of $3.5 million. But his friend was the one that sent it to him, and I think his friend refunded it to him because he bought it for 2.7, flipped it to Logan for 3.5, but then got his money back. And then I guess the friend was mad. I don't know.
I mean, usually with those kinds of transactions being so big, they're usually going through some sort of a legit like auction house or something like that has insurance against this kind of stuff. But that doesn't surprise me because I mean, I know like I got my start in the working world working for a computer store, right? And for those that are my age, right, back in the 80s and 90s when software was kind of first coming out, you literally bought a box that was shrink wrapped with the manual and the discs and the CDs inside the box, right? And obviously, as a young kid, right, I couldn't afford to spend whatever it was, $200 on Microsoft Excel or whatever it was. So working in the store, we would actually open up the boxes, right? We would copy the disc, put it back in the box, and we had a shrink wrap machine.
Oh my God.
And, if you weren't wiser to the wear rate, you wouldn't know. You would buy it and open it up and tear the shrink wrap. And as long as you weren't a complete, nut ripping it apart, you could hide it. So that sounds like that's kind of what happened.
So with that thing, I'm sorry, so could you, if you got the copy, would the original still work? Like the original.
Yeah. So I mean, back then, copy protections weren't anywhere what they are today. So if you had the original disc, it was just as easy to put it in and copy it. And there was very limited, what I'll call digital rights management. And there was all kinds of software to allow you to copy very easily back in those days. It was the wild, wild west.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of like crazy to think about. I mean, I guess it was just easier back then. Like, I guess the same thing could be said about, real crime. Like, back in the day, there was no, cameras or anything.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. Another thing I wanted to bring up quickly to segue, this past week, we've been having some sort of dip or some sort of tsunami in the crypto world. You said you think it's gonna keep going down. I said it was a dip. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Well, I mean, a dip is in this case would be like a couple percent. This is, so what? Bitcoin's down from 67K in November to 40 or 41 ish today. So that's
42.
I mean, that's not that's not going out of business, but that is a pretty big correction. Jump. And it's not. So the reason I said that I thought it was more than just kind of a dip is because if you looked at it, it was kind of an across the board wipeout. Yeah. Like every crypto took a hit, right? And I know you have Ethereum, and Ethereum was down probably 20%. I know I have. Decentraland, and Decentraland I think was 290 something, so I'm down 15, 20%. So yeah, it was a pretty big hit, and it was pretty consistent, right? It wasn't like a 1 day kind of thing. It was like 3 weeks of just boom, 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 boom.
And if I'm not wrong, don't no one credit me as a crypto connoisseur or guide, but there's different layers, I believe. So I think like Bitcoin or something like, or no, sorry, Bitcoin would not be layer 1. Something else. Let's just call it this one I have. It's like ACH, which is like a payment service. That one always gets hit first, I've noticed, and then Bitcoin will get hit like, I don't know, a couple hours or a couple days later, and then when the market recovers, that ACH, the one that is the payment one, that one always recovers first. So it's like there's different waves where if you kind of have like one of these like smaller stocks, it kind of is like almost like an indication of the market in a way. And I've only noticed it for the past like couple weeks because we really seen the market starting to change and like everything's been like red. And that was the only green one that I sent you that was like 27% up in out of all my coins. And then I also seen that the CEO of Ethereum, he said that these other 2 tokens were going to take over Ethereum layer 1. So it makes me think, like, is there going to be a Ethereum layer 2? And I did some research, and they said it's not going to come till 2026. So by that point, is that going to be like old news?
Yeah, who knows? So you're talking about, was that the one, the Tron and...
yeah, Tron.
And what was the other thing? I forget the other one.
You
can't buy it though, right? So you can't buy it through Coinbase or not? Coinbase.
Coinbase.
So I was like, and I was trying to figure out how you buy it, and then of course I go to their website, and it's such a pain in the ass to buy like this Tron coin, right?
That's the one.
And
like
he mentioned
cents.
One other one too. I forget what it was.
I really don't know. Maybe Hex? No, was that not it?
I don't know. Was it Tor?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I forget. But so I mean, you go and you look, and they're not widely traded.
Binance. BNB?
Yes. Well, Binance, I think, it's
another service, but
yeah, it's like a service like Bitcoin or Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
That's even for these smaller, like really,
everything's on there.
Yeah, and so yeah, I went there and looked, and it's such a pain. Like I had to link my Coinbase wallet to it, and then I have to trade in Coinbase and then transfer it to the wallet to then potentially, but it's just like,
yeah.
So there's, it's still not easy for the layman to get to some of these cryptos. I mean, so that's, I think, the reason why, if you want to be safe, you want to mess around with this and you want to be safe, you literally should be buying Bitcoin or Ethereum, and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go anywhere else outside of it. And I am not a financial advisor, and neither is Dave.
Yeah.
But look, if you want to diversify your portfolio and kind of dip your toe in this pool, go for it. But I would not stray too far into it, because let me tell you, the weeds are tall the second you get past Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where it's just like a matter of just kind of doing your own research. And even at that point, you can't really predict a lot of these things that are going on. It's the same thing that we talked about a few weeks ago with the whole the crypto that I got recommended, the quant one. We thought that was at its low. And it ended up being at damn near the peak of it. So it's just one of those things where, depending on your entry point and how much you know about it and previous history and so forth, it's just a number of things you got to take in. And another thing I wanted to add to that was, I can't really remember.
And so that was actually a GaryVee thing as well on his discussion. He was actually talking about, if you don't know, or don't understand, or don't, have some value for what you're, I think he was talking about in a broader sense, but he kind of took it back to crypto. If you don't know, anything about the coin, don't get involved in it.
Yeah.
Right. And because he was talking about advertising, he said, if someone came to you and said, hey, I'll give you $100,000 to put an ad on your podcast. And these guys, obviously, right. They're way bigger than we are, but he goes, would you do it? And the guy's like, yes. And he goes, well, that's the wrong answer, right? If you don't know anything about it, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, and that comes across, and that's how you start to burn your audience, right? If you get on and you just start shooting your mouth off because someone's paying you for an ad to buy some $800 gym piece of equipment, and some of your audience buys it, and a month later it's collecting dust in their basement. Guess who they're going to hold responsible for that, right? And you end up burning people. So you want to make sure that whatever you're buying from a crypto perspective, or whatever you're buying just in general, like you're very versed in it and you're very comfortable in it as well. So that's actually good advice. I mean, I bought the Decentraland, right? I bought $100, so it's not a real big deal, but at least I looked into it and kind of tried to figure out what was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's still, even to this day, like, I know it's on a dip right now, but it still has a crazy amount of potential, and it's not even started yet. We're still like in the early between everything. And quickly going back, and then we're gonna move forward. The OpenSea thing. If I'm not mistaken, they said that it generated like last month or within like the first couple weeks of 2022, it already generated $1 billion, and there was like less than 1 million or 2 million users on the platform. So,
yeah, they said that.
now I don't know how true that is, but if
Right.
that is true, that's a relatively low market cap. Would you like for the overall space of
and
NFTs?
I'm still very hesitant to take any of these metrics seriously because, I mean, again, you know that situation with that.
Oh, the $500 million.
Yeah, where the guy basically bought it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder if that's going on with OpenSea or, you know, do these avatar, because, God, there are a million of these avatar things, right? I know we talked about the tigers and the apes, right? But there are a million of these things. And I start to wonder if, like, you know, the tiger guys are saying, hey, ape guys, you buy some of mine and I'll buy some of yours, and we'll kind of create this artificial look. And I know that blockchain will, you know, expose that. But like I said, I think 99% of the world wouldn't even know how to look up the blockchain or do, you know, an ether scan kind of thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're still in the very, very early stages of it. And being in the early stages, we talked about before, it's kind of like one of those scary things because you don't know if you're going to get ripped off.
So, I mean, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I've got some experience with this, right? So when eBay first launched way back in 99 or whatever it was, right? That was the go-to place for collectibles and pretty much everything. And I remember selling stuff, and I probably shouldn't, well, maybe the statute of limitations is over, but, you know, you'd sell stuff, and what you would do is you would create an account, and you would say, I'm selling this comic book for $100, say, or this baseball card for $100. And then, you know, it would go up and people would bid on it. And what you would do, though, is simultaneously you would open up a second account.
Okay.
With a different name and like a different, you know, just yourself? Because there was no checks and balances. Now there are, right? eBay, you know, cleaned a lot of this up. But at the time, right, when it was brand new, very much like OpenSea, right, I'd have multiple accounts, right? So I would put something up for bid, and then I would bid against it. I would bid for it to try and get other people to
get in there,
you know, kind of get into the whole, you know, bidding process and just sort of get into it and kind of bump up the price artificially by bidding on my own item. So, and if I accidentally won, so be it, right? I took a hit of maybe a couple bucks for fees, and then you go right back and you do it again, and eventually you end up, you know, bumping the number up. So that's I can see that happening right now with OpenSea. Yeah. So you know, you hear $1 billion in transactions, and you know, you wonder. I have a lot of
how many of that is just like someone just kind of like buying it off of themselves or just redoing the same purchases. That makes perfect sense. And to go back to our other conversation, Kim Kardashian and Floyd Mayweather just got in trouble for promoting a scam token.
I saw that.
Yeah. So it's funny that we brought that up.
Sued.
Like it just. I don't know. You would think with like them that they would have a team that would look into it or something like that.
You would think.
Like
I know this is a situation where someone came to them and said, "Hey, we'll give you $1 million and maybe a percentage of the company," because they're at the point where they probably get like ownership stakes and stuff like that. But I'm sure someone came to their people and said, "Hey, we got this. This is what we want to offer you. This is, you know, what we're doing," and you know, their people probably said yes, and they probably just had no idea. And this is a classic example of where if you're promoting something you don't know anything about, you're going to end up burning people, and it's going to come back and haunt you. And that was his whole point. This is a classic example of that.
I know. I find it just so hard to believe that it just got through like layers upon layers upon layers of people that were just like, all right, yeah, just do it.
Well, so I mean, it's probably not as hard as you think, because if you think about it, right, this is the hottest conversation on the planet, right? Everybody's talking crypto, everybody's talking NFTs, but the reality is nobody knows anything about it, right? So I'm sure these celebrities are all getting wrapped around the axle of this hype and saying, I need to be involved in this. I need to be involved in this. And, you know, they and their people have really no idea. They're just kind of pressured to, we got to do something with this, right? We got to dip our toe, and this is a great way to do it.
Do you think that there was like some malice intent behind it, or do you think it was just some pure,
I think it's just, I think it's pure ignorance, to be honest with you.
Okay. Fair enough.
You know, and that's the way it goes. But yeah, that's the reason why, you know, you have to have some credibility. Like when you're doing this kind of stuff, I guess, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we start to have advertisers, and I think we'll take it to heart, right? If you advertise, it's because it's a product that we use or believe in.
Right.
So Yeezys and coffee come to us. We probably could talk favorably about you in an honest manner.
Now, in your personal viewpoint, do you see when people like promote a product like over and over again, like let's say it's the same product or a different product, or mostly a different product, that their like opinion becomes less? Like not opinion, but their voice kind of means less. Like let's say you see, we were just talking about Kim Kardashian. She's promoting all these different things. Does her voice, do you think, from a just you, Joe, perspective versus the masses means less? Or do you think it kind of is just like white noise to most people?
Well, I mean, I don't think anything she says.
Yeah, right.
Heart,
But,
right? I guess her followers are probably her followers for a reason, right? So they're probably living by her word. So whatever she's promoting at the time, they're probably behind, right? And I'm sure I could think back, and I'm sure that I have probably chased brands that are advertised by, somebody I listen to, Stern, for instance. Like, I think he did Tommy John when they first, were nobodies. And
I feel like it comes to the person, though. Like, if you know the person's relatively, like, they're not all in it for just strictly the money, and they kind of have, like, a good understanding of, like, all right, I'm going to use this program, or I'm going to use this product or promote that product to my audience, it makes somewhat of sense, then I'll be more inclined to do so. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever bought something because some
influencer or
some star or some influencer has. Yeah, no, I honestly can't. I'm sure that I have, but I don't get wrapped around the axle of that, because you pretty much know all these celebrities and stuff are being paid, right? And they, George Clooney doesn't drink Nespresso coffee, right? He has somebody who freshly grounds his monkey crapped, $100 a pound coffee for him. We know. So it's like, do you really honestly believe any of this stuff, right?
So here's an example. We know when we were at the Christmas party, we were talking about that guy, the Liver King. That he's like the muscular guy that we were showing you. He had like all those weights on him, and he was like walking down the driveway.
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more recently, he always pops up on my feed, and I always show Hayden. And if somehow we could get him on here, I'd love to have him on here. But his whole message is like ancestral, primal type behavior. So, for example, every morning or every time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he'll have liver in syrup, okay?
That's hardcore.
So rather than him promoting his supplements, which he also does have a line of supplements, he promotes the
lifestyle, and that leads
liver.
You to his vitamins.
Because not everyone's going to go to the butcher and buy liver. But it made me want to think, like, I was going to actually go to, like, the butcher and, like, no joke, I was going to buy liver just to try it out. But apparently, like, it has a god-awful taste, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to keep you posted. Part 2 for that.
I couldn't.
Yeah, so anyway, long story short, I don't even know what I was going to say after that. But, like, long story short, it just was one of those instances where that person's promoting, like, a lifestyle of, eating healthy versus, like, this buy my supplements. It was just kind of like a side to the lifestyle. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think I could buy into that just because he seems like he's really passionate about it. Same thing with like the Gary dude with the NFTs. He's very passionate about it. It also makes you want to follow these individuals.
Well, absolutely.
For being
that comes across, right? So, if people are talking with that sort of passion and kind of in-depth knowledge, and it's more than just a 15-second read or a 30-second read. And, it's, literally, like he's talking about his things, right? He's got a 20-minute, diatribe about it that is going into all the details and stuff like that. You can tell the guy believes in it, right? Whether it's the right thing for me or whoever is a whole different story, but at least this guy truly believes in it. He's not jerking your chain. He's he's putting some effort into it.
Yeah. Now it's funny, he goes outside in the morning. He'll take like an Instagram story. He'll show his like feet. Like he's like, get your feet connected to the ground, and like you're out there getting vitamin D. It's funny, but dude, he's into it. And it almost makes you want to like, you can't stop watching his stuff because he's so like firm on believing about it.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, dude, for sure. But
it's cool that these are people that I would never even think twice about finding, and it's cool. So I'm actually looking into more of his stuff. So hey, I know you probably got to go sometime soon.
Relatively soon. What'd you do this week? Anything interesting?
No.
No.
Well, so let me give you a quick update on a couple of things, right? So this will probably come as a surprise because you don't know about this yet, but we are now officially on Spotify.
I saw the email that
Did you?
the anchor thing, right?
Yeah. So
I was gonna ask
Spotify
about
and
that.
Anchor, which is actually owned by Spotify, right? So we are on, the podcast is now up on Spotify and Anchor FM.
Oh, let's go.
So as of
That's huge.
literally, I just did it like a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you may have found it on Spotify. If not, you can find it there. I think if you just go to the search Exclusive Minds, that's
Sweet.
where we're at. I put episodes 10 and 11, the last 2 up. I'll probably put the other 9 up. It's just, obviously it's going to take some time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with Spotify too, you could change the thumbnail per thing like you do on YouTube.
Yeah, I've been messing with that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that'd be sweet. Do we have to like do like an ad read or anything? Like I know with the Anchor thing, you have to do something like to speak about them or no?
I don't know. I mean, I don't
it.
think so. I think it's optional, right? It's very much like Apple, where you basically upload it, and they have some additional editing tools where you can, I think, insert ads, and then they have like a marketplace, but like we have to have so many subscribers or viewers before you can qualify for like live read ads and stuff like that. And
Okay.
I don't know how it all works. I mean, literally, it was kind of, it's funny. I kept saying, I'm going to wait on this because you need an RSS feed and a podcast host. And for some reason, I just went to Spotify today and started looking, and I'm like, wait a second, they have this Anchor thing. And the Anchor thing works exactly like Apple, where they basically self-host. This one actually created an RSS feed. So I think that we can start to feed into the other ones. And I actually got a list of all of the
Platforms?
the platforms. And again, I don't know if it's even worth the time, right? There's Apple Podcasts, which we're on, Spotify, which we're on,
YouTube?
Google Podcasts, which we are not, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Alexa, Overcast, Podcasts, Castro, Castbox, and Podchaser.
I don't even know what to say about
And
that.
that, this doesn't even include, we're doing YouTube and we're doing Rumble from a video kind of, it's not really a video, but it's the podcast and the audio is up there. So I'm like, oh God, right? And, supposedly you sign up for this and it would feed out to these other ones. But the problem is you have to actually set up an initial account with all of them. And I'm like, oh God. So
I didn't even know that
I
there
think
was
if we
that
got Apple and we got Spotify, we're probably
That's
fine.
like probably
yeah.
the two titans that we want to kind of stick with. Before we go, I just wanted to say something real quick. I was telling Joe I got to kind of be cryptic about the way that I say it, but using anything. I know a lot of people want to start podcast or they want to start some sort of, creative venture. And they always say, well, what's the return besides like the money aspect of it? And you just never know what that might be. In this case, I can't really say what it is. Just us, me and Joe, meeting every once a week, us doing it for fun. Other people look in on that and they kind of see it as like a form of like dedication, and we're getting all these people on here. So it's just like a kind of like a cool thing that wraps back to it. I can't really speak on it yet. I talked to you kind of about it like when we were on the way up here.
Yep.
But, it just goes to show that people are watching and people are looking to see what you're doing. So whether it be clothing, podcasting, YouTube, like any sort of content creation, or if you're making pottery or something like that, just go for it and, stick with it, because people, look at what you're trying to do and they might,
well, so it's funny. So I was listening to one of the podcasts I listened to is Dan Bongino. So it's a political podcast, right? But he actually does like a thing where Friday he answers, viewers' questions. And one of the questions was, hey, Dan, how'd you get started doing a podcast? And, what would you recommend you do? And would you recommend doing a podcast? And he was pretty frank about it. He goes, look, podcasting's been great to me, right? It's changed my life. I love doing it. He goes, but if you're getting into it today, it is not something you should expect, a lot of immediate return. He goes, when I started, there was like 30,000 podcasts.
Which isn't a lot.
It's not a lot. He goes, 2 years ago, Spotify recorded 300,000 podcasts. This year, it's 3 million podcasts. And he goes, think about that. You start a podcast like this one, right? And you are a super, super small fish in a very, very large pond. And how do you get, kind of that visibility and exposure, right? And how's that happen, right? For me, he goes, well, we did it organically, right? We started and we just kept doing it. In the first couple of years, there were, we were basically talking to crickets, and eventually it sort of steamrolled and we kind of got a grassroots approach. It was a little easier to do it back then because
1 out of 30,000. I'll take those odds over.
There weren't a lot,
yeah.
right? And you start to break it down into categories, right? There weren't a lot of podcasts, so it was a lot easier to get exposure organically. He goes, now if you want to get into a podcast and kind of within the first year, sort of make it into the charts and stuff like that, he goes, you'd have to spend millions of dollars on advertising, or you have to have some sort of complete crap ass luck where you do something stupid that gets you attention, maybe it's not good attention, in order to do it, because he goes, it's a busy sea. So it was one of those things where I was like, God, that's discouraging as hell. But then at the same time, like you just said, right, why are we doing this, right? And I don't, obviously if we could somehow turn this into a money-making process where this became a full-time job, wonderful. But I think the reality is we know that's not likely to happen, but it's a great outlet. It's a great, conversation point. It's fun. And, you mentioned, right, you're interviewing for a marketing position, and you somehow you mentioned that we have a podcast, and that actually kind of gave you some credibility, and it's a real thing, right? It shows that you've organized and you've done some stuff. So there's other ways to look at it, but I mean, it was just one of those things where I was depressed for about 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, it's
snap out of it.
I'm not doing it expecting we're ever going to get 1 million viewers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like you said, if it just coincidentally happened, it organically happened. That's the main thing. People are going to stick with you from the beginning, and we might have like. Let's say, let's role play here for a second and say the people that stuck with us from episode 1 to 12, they'll be there from episode 380. And they're like, dude, I remember when you guys only had X amount of people there. You know what I mean? And we were talking about it. So it's just one of those things. You just got to stick with it, and hopefully it turns into something. But we're still working on some undercover projects. Can't really speak too much about it. I know we were texting about it.
Yeah, I've got a great idea for the NFT thing. So to just kind of test the waters, I think we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll announce something on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, because I think we could do something that's. I just want to dip our toe in, and the easiest way for me to learn is to do. Yeah, right. Yeah. I could read and I can watch videos all day long, but until I actually put my mind to it. And that's one of the reasons why I was talking about, the .eth domain and just trying to figure that all out. So I like to put it to practice, and I got some ideas on the NFT, which
from what you sent me, just like that little sentence that you sent me, it sounded like you're on the right path with it. I mean, we have a platform. We might as well do it, with the clothing stuff. So
before we go, I do, it's really funny. All these podcasts, they all, either end or begin their show by begging for subscribe button pushes and reviews and stuff like that. And that actually, I mean, so obviously as we're learning, right? Yeah. That stuff is really, really important.
Call to action.
Yeah. So this is the call to action. So, I know we've got a bunch of people, even if you're not listening to it on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on Spotify.
Send this to your brother, sister.
Yeah. And that's the easiest way that I think we can get some additional subscribers is if you start sharing it or just, talk favorably about it. So please leave reviews. Subscribe to all of them, even if you're only listening to it, say, on Apple Podcasts. It still helps us. Yeah. So we'll probably beg for that a little bit more, because that's just how this thing works, right? That's that's how you move the needle.
Yeah. So if they ask what the podcast is about, just make up some crazy story that we talked about, or just say something, give us all the praise. And then...
Well, so that's the funny thing too, because like when I was setting up the Spotify thing, it's the same as Apple, right? There's categories.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you define the category of your podcast? And I'm like, what is this, right? So I ended up,
cultural, I don't know.
I think I put it under business entrepreneurship, right? Because we end up spending a lot of time talking about the business, talking about the business of podcasting, talking about crypto. So it seemed like that one made the most sense, because I think originally we did it as like beauty and
fashion or something like that.
Right? Because we were thinking of the clothes, right? And we probably haven't talked about the clothes in 8 episodes. So yeah, it was like, okay, what the hell is this, right? So I think I ended up doing entrepreneurship, which I think that's what this is. But yeah, it's tough.
No, yeah, it is tough breaking into subcategories. But I think for our next challenge, we should try to do like an entire podcast without talking about like crypto and NFT and see how far we can make it. All right. Well, that's we could try it out. I don't know. It's funny because the next one I was gonna say we should bring back like.
Well, you know what it is. We don't have anything going on with the clothes right now, right?
We sort of pivot it.
As soon as we get something going with the clothes, unfortunately, the next time we do something, it'll probably involve an NFT conversation. But yeah, I hear you. Maybe we should try and do that.
No, I mean, it is
turning into the Joe and Dave crypto show.
No, what was I gonna say? Dang it, I can't remember it now. I literally just had it on the top of my head.
Well, there's always next week.
There's always next week. Unfortunately, that'll probably have to do it for us, man. I don't know. Time flew with this one. I have to go be a big brother, do big brother responsibilities. So go comment. At
least he's going. I seem to have kind of bailed on the whole martial arts thing, which really sucks. But
you should go back. Do it.
My schedule's been so freaking inconsistent. You know, like everything in sports and stuff like that, you need consistency. So and I almost feel bad. It's like I don't want to because you know how it is. Like you got to learn all these these moves and stuff like that. And if you don't have some sort of consistency, it's just really hard. So I'm like, sure, I could have went tonight, but I can't go, Monday, and I can't go next Thursday because I'm traveling. And it's like, it's finally catching up to me, this, COVID kind of going away, or at least I hope it's going away.
Whoa, we just got pushed back 2 weeks for school.
Natalie just got this draconian thing from her college that she has to wear like an N90. She has to wear an N95 mask, not just a regular mask. And she has to be boosted and prove it. And I'm like, oh my God,
Nike
really?
just put that out too. They're firing people. Yeah.
Come on. Omicron is a freaking cold.
Let's go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the Exclusive Minds podcast.
Omicron is nothing more than a common cold, for God's sake.
Oh no, we almost made it through the entire episode. Imagine this is the one that's the needle. It's like, yeah, fuck you guys. Oh, no.
All right. So we just jumped ourselves into the adult category with that closeout. But all right, so we're done. You go get your brother in, and thanks everyone. We will catch up with you again shortly.
See ya.
Yeah. Let me drop exclusive game from my exclusive mind. You be out here chasing fame, I stay steady on my grind. 0 diamonds, 0 chains, from my brain is where I shine. Hit you with them good lyrics, I ain't writing and I'm dying. And right now I'm alive, so check it. I reckon I shouldn't cuss on this record. I don't cuss on them often because I'm applying pressure. Grab that fire grind. 0 diamonds, 0 chains, from my brain is where I shine. Hit you with them good lyrics, I ain't writing and I'm dying. And right now I'm alive, so check it. I reckon I shouldn't cuss on this record. I don't cuss on them often because I'm applying pressure. Grab that fire from my dresser. EXM, who does it better? No, I won't let up. Gas pedal fully pressed, I do the dash to the checks. If it ain't assets, I'm never stressed. I keep it calm and collect. Most of y'all stuck in some debt, and you got bad credit. I learned my lesson, I was young and foolish, now I'm better. I kept my head up through the stormiest weather. Wipe my eyes and focus on where I'm headed. We call that constant progression. If we in Vegas and the option is betting on me, you know we cashing out to the teller. Now let me switch my endeavor, change up my whole approach. Let's have a toast to those who do the most. Achieving goals on the road to their dreams, on the path to the cream, counting stacks with their team, living lavishly, but still actively aware that they can be a casualty, so they don't lack humility and they don't dabble with the greed. Yes, they focused on the plan ahead. They know impact will lead to bread, and the bread equals success and less threats. Got some things to accomplish. When someone hits my line, it's not about some nonsense. We making moves, always grinding, we popping. You know we not gonna stop, and never no option but time, and the perfect time is right now. Not caught up in tomorrow. I'm all about making a conscious decision while I'm living. Make a choice, then I'm committed to that vision. I pivot if necessary. It's scary when you get caught in a position that isn't hitting you down bad because you're persistent in the wrong direction. Just learn your lesson, you gotta check it. Audit you and keep on getting better. That's the motive, that's the method, and I'm headed further than I ever thought I could make it. I wouldn't stop unless my pulse flat lines like the doctor lost his patience.